Aldama keeps a stockpile of evidence against the President of Congress, Francina Armengol. Let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of Medidas Cautelares. And pay close attention, because if some thought that Aldama's statement in the Supreme Court was the end of the story, they're very mistaken. This continues. And pay close attention, because the next victim, in quotes, of the information and evidence from Victor de Aldama, it's going to be none other than the President of the Congress of Deputies, Francina Armengol. Let's share this important information on screen. By the way, if you haven't done it yet, remember to subscribe to the Medidas Cautelares channel, as we're already on our way to reaching our goal of 150,000 subscribers, getting closer every day. Medidas Cautelares keeps growing thanks to all of you. And we already have this information on screen, which we're going to expand on, because what I'm about to tell you could definitely have a lot of consequences. Attention! The businessman Victor de Aldama is holding an arsenal of incriminating evidence against the President of the Congress of Deputies, Francina Armengol, in connection with the Coldo scheme. Aldama's lawyer, José Antonio Choclan, already hinted in his closing statement during the trial over the Coldo scheme held at the Supreme Court what fate might await Armengol. Choclan said verbatim, it was said that Torres, Armengol, Santos, Zerdan, Abalos and Coldo Garcia had been slandered. The fate of Coldo and Abalos is already known in this case. That of Santos Zerdan is also known, and soon in the special case the fate of Mr. Torres and Mrs. Armengol will be known. Aldama's lawyer, José Antonio Choclan, never does anything without a reason, and pay attention to what we're telling you. Sources close to Aldama, consulted by Medidas Cautelares and Libertad Digital, state that the businessman has an arsenal of incriminating evidence against the President of Congress, Francina Armengol, information that only he has and no one else possesses. Aldama aims to continue cooperating with the justice system that he began in November 2024. In fact, next Thursday he is scheduled to appear at the National Court to testify about the sale of medical supplies to the Balearic Islands when Armengol was president. The same sources consulted indicate that the future of the businessman's cooperation will be linked to the verdict issued by the Supreme Court regarding the first part of the Coldo case. Let me remind you that the judges must decide whether to apply a qualified mitigating factor to reduce his sentence by 1 degree or a highly qualified mitigating factor to reduce it by 2 degrees. Reducing the sentence by 1 degree would be enough to avoid his imprisonment and therefore allow him to continue his cooperation to clarify all the facts related to the corruption of Pedro Sanchez's government and the PSOE. The Supreme Court tells us that he must make an effort and acknowledge Aldama's work. As we reported on Medidas Cautelares, the possible imprisonment of businessman Victor de Aldama following the Supreme Court's ruling on the Coldo case would blow up the investigation of up to 5 ongoing court cases, which implicate Pedro Sanchez, his government, his family and his party, no more and no less than 5. Aldama has assisted in the Coldo case investigation, which was tried in the Supreme Court. But his testimony has also been key in the investigation of the Mascarillas case, which is being conducted by the head of the Central Investigative Court No. 2 of the National Court, Ismael Moreno. This judge is also investigating 2 other cases in which Aldama is crucial. On one hand, there's the case involving illegal commissions for public works contracts, where Santos Zerdan, former PSOE organization secretary, is charged, and the businessman submitted handwritten documents by Coldo Garcia on contract rigging. On the other hand, Moreno is also investigating the alleged illegal financing of the PSOE, in which Aldama provided the oil quotas from the Venezuelan state company PDVSA, valued at $250 million, with which this political party and the Socialist International, presided over by Pedro Sanchez, would have been financed. To this list of legal cases, we should add the hydrocarbon scheme being investigated by the judge of a Central Investigating Court of the National Court, Santiago Pedraz. Finally, the Begoña Gomez case could also have been caught up in it, since Aldama revealed to the Supreme Court an operation by Pedro Sanchez's wife to do business with a CEPI building through the Instituto de Empresa. And it should be remembered because it's important to put it on the table. The latest police report from the Civil Guard Central Operational Unit, UCO. specifically about the contracts for medical supplies in the Balearic Islands during the COVID-19 pandemic when Francina Armengol was president of the islands. This report showed that contracts worth about 3.7 million euros were awarded to companies like Soluciones de Gestión, which are linked to the corruption scheme. The investigators have managed to verify up to 65 documented messages between Armengol and Koldo Garcia from 2020 onwards related to face masks, PCR tests, and dealings with the Ministry of Transport. Armengol contacted Koldo several times to reach the then minister José Luis Ábalos. It is highlighted that Armengol facilitated the network's access to the Balearic Islands, but the decisions were made through the health service technicians. Now, the only missing piece would be completed by none other than the businessman Victor de Aldama. As we said, Aldama holds an arsenal of incriminating evidence against the President of the Congress of Deputies. And of course, they would facilitate the possible indictment of Francina Armengol. Since the case is being investigated by the National Court Judge Ismael Moreno, we remind you that for Armengol to be formally investigated, Judge Moreno would have to send a reasoned referral to the Supreme Court, with all the alleged criminal evidence so that the Supreme Court could already open a criminal case against Francina Armengol. These pieces of evidence could be presented by Aldama in the coming days, but of course everything will also depend on the verdict that the Supreme Court issues against Aldama for the first part of the Koldo case. Any information about this, we will of course keep you updated here on Medidas Cautelares. That's all for this edition of Medidas Cautelares. I hope you enjoyed it, and you know that I really value your opinions and your comments. You already know that we are publishing all the sessions of the Koldo case trial exclusively here on Medidas Cautelares, which I know you really enjoy. We have already uploaded Aldama's sessions as well as other important ones, and soon we will also upload those of the UKO agents. The work of the UKO agents has also been fundamental in bringing the Koldo case investigation to a successful conclusion. Their work has been indispensable, so we'll be uploading all the trial sessions so you can follow them from home, because I know you love them and are really hooked. You already know that you can become members of Medidas Cautelares at the chosen level for less than €3 a month, or at the supreme level for less than €7 a month. You can also make contributions via Visium at 627-556-370, 627-556-370. Leave me your opinions. What do you think is going to happen with Victor de Aldama? Do you think the Supreme Court is going to reduce the requested sentence by 1 or 2 levels? Do you think the sentence for him will be like this and he'll avoid jail? In this way, could Aldama also continue cooperating with the justice system and provide all that evidence against the President of Congress, Francina Armengol? You already know that your opinion is very important to me, and remember to give a lot of likes, so this video reaches everyone. Why? The most important thing, as I always say, is that everyone gets this information because information is power. See you soon.